Hi guys, I am starting my question and answer video. I kind of opened it up on my Facebook to see if anyone had questions out there for me about the process or anything you had on your mind. So here we go. I'll go ahead and start with the first one, which is what made you want to become a surrogate? So being a surrogate is something I've always kind of dreamt about, something I've always wanted to do, had a longing to do. I remember talking about it even before Taylor and I got married. I remember telling him that this is something I wanted to do, which at first he was a little unsure of, especially because we didn't have any of our own children, which that is a requirement. You do have to have your own kids before you can become a surrogate. And I remember telling people before I was pregnant that this is something I wanted to do in the future after we had kids. And people thought I was crazy, and they're like, you're going to hate being pregnant, and, there's no way you would do that. And once I became pregnant, I completely loved being pregnant, so it kind of set it in stone, like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna do this sometime in the future. And honestly, after Riley was born, I was ready right away. I wanted to be pregnant again. I remember being 30 plus some weeks pregnant and crying in bed because I was not ready to be done being pregnant. I told Taylor I wanted to keep being pregnant. So that's kind of how my pregnancies go. I don't get sick. I love it, and so far this pregnancy has been the same. I again was not sick. I completely love it. I feel great, honestly, when I'm pregnant. I feel like my hormones balance out a little more. I definitely have my moments, as we all do, but overall I just feel so much better when I'm pregnant. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me. And then one of the biggest things is, if you're a parent, you know what this feeling is, but when you get to hold your baby for the very first time and that pure joy and happiness, I can't wait to see that for the parents and see their face when they get to hold their baby for the first time. And being able to provide that for someone is just, I think that's the coolest thing in the world. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm super excited as we get further on into the pregnancy. Okay, so next one is, are you worried about growing attached to the baby? And this is something I get a lot about attachment, because if you've been pregnant before, many of you know, you have that growing bond. And I remember when I was pregnant with Riley, just dreaming about her, and I knew it was going to be a girl because in my dreams it was a baby girl, and just building that connection, from very early on in pregnancy. But this pregnancy is very, very different in regards to the attachment, because I don't have that. A lot of people describe it as like a niece or nephew. Yes, you do love them because, you're growing them. You're creating some sort of a bond, but yeah, a lot of people say it feels like a niece or nephew. Once it's here, it's like, oh yeah, you can go home with your mom and dad, but I'll love you and, take care of you when you're with me. So that's kind of how a lot of people describe it. I had to reach out to some other surrogate friends just to get some more words, because I was just struggling coming up with it. I'm just like, I don't have that attachment with this baby. It's just totally different than with my own pregnancy. It's like I'm so happy, that I'm pregnant. Sorry, that was my dog. My dog's coming down here to join me. There she is. She came running down the stairs. So anyways, it's just totally different than when it's your own pregnancy. And another aspect to that is, some people say, how can you give up a baby? But I don't know if people don't understand, but it's not your baby at all. It's 100% the mom and dad that I'm doing this for. It's 100% their baby. It's not my baby, not biological, related to me at all. So I never once, it's never even crossed my mind that I'm giving up a baby, because I'm not. It's their baby. I'm just taking care of him for 9 months. So I don't know, it's totally different. It's totally different than when you're pregnant with your own baby. And another part to that is, Taylor and I don't want any more kids, and knowing that you're done having your own kids. It's totally different. I feel like maybe if I wanted more, I might have a different feeling about that. But that's one of the requirements of being a surrogate is being done with your family. And we talked about that after we had Riley and all the changes we went through. We decided that we kind of just wanted one kid and just see where it went. So there's that. The next one is just a general question: is how does insurance work? So this one can be a tricky one. They have experts because I'm with an agency, so the agency has experts that they work with that review insurance policies. So what we did was we give them the information to our insurance policy to see if my insurance covers surrogacy. A lot of people's insurance does cover surrogacy, but it's becoming more common that these plans are harder to come by. So once they reviewed our policy that we have through my husband's work, it was kind of wish-washy. Our insurance only would cover it under certain circumstance, and so they were kind of going back and forth. So in my situation, the parents did have to take out an insurance policy for me. So we had to go through the open market and get an outside insurance policy. So that's what they did for me, so that way I can go to where I wanted to go to. So the next question is just some general legalities before and after birth. There's a lot that goes into the contracts. We have lawyers on my side, there's lawyers on the parent side, to kind of have both of us protected. So some things that maybe you don't think about when you're going into something like this is what are your feelings on termination, termination, or what if you have to have a hysterectomy? There's lots of complications that could arise. So in the contracts, it's kind of stated that I, as the surrogate, I have a right to my own body and I can make whatever decision I want. But I went into the agreement, that this is their baby and they get to make all the medical decisions for themselves. But in the contract, it is stated that I do have a say in what happens with my body, and if it were a situation that had to do with termination, that I do have a right to choose. But their butts are covered because there's a lot of financial burden that goes along with surrogacy. So that's one thing a lot of people don't think about. Or if you have to have a hysterectomy, what are your thoughts on that? And it covers you for lots of complications. If you have to go on bed rest, there's a lot of little things that you kind of don't think about. Or if I were to get into a car wreck and become comatose, I put it in my will that I will stay on life support to finish out the pregnancy as long as everything looks good. And then once they deliver, once they were able to deliver the baby, then, my care would go back to Taylor and he would decide to pull the plug at that point. But some things that you just may not think about, they cover it all in the contracts. And also the birth certificate, the parents, go to court and get all that information. And so there's no problems after we have the baby. The baby goes to his mom and dad and not to me. Everything's covered because I wanted to make sure I'm covered. I want to make sure they're covered because they want their baby and I want them to have their baby. Another one is what's your support system like? So you want to have a good support system because you have a lot of doctor's appointments. In the beginning, we had to fly out to the clinic for the initial medical clearance, and then we fly back again for the transfer. So both those times, Taylor and I went, and we had to leave Riley behind. So one of the times my parents stayed with Riley, and another time my daycare provider had her. So we have support within family and with our daycare. Our daycare is amazing. But all my family was very supportive of our decision to become a surrogate. Taylor's family was supportive. We didn't have any backlash really. So I guess I'm pretty lucky. I've heard stories where families did not agree with someone's decision to become a surrogate. So I'm very lucky. My family's pretty open, and they were all very supportive. So this question is a long one, so I'm going to read it off the page. So, how are you able to sacrifice the possibility of not being able to have children of your own in the future for someone you didn't even know before this process? So, like I mentioned before, being done with your family is a important part of surrogacy. I mean, there's people who have been a surrogate and then they go on to have more kids. It's possible, but there's lots of risk factors that, can come up with IVF pregnancies or just any pregnancy in general, honestly. Sometimes things happen and, there's complications at the end, and, I mean, emergency hysterectomy, you never know what's going to happen with your pregnancy, so you have to be okay with not having babies in the future, and we totally were. We're totally okay with not having any more babies. We're confident in our decision, and that makes this process a lot easier, because, I mean, if I long to have, another kid or more, more children, it would make a pregnancy, much more difficult. Just, if a complication comes up, I don't have to worry. I mean, I always have to worry about my own health, but I don't have to worry about my fertility. And anyways, with all the IVF process, there's not a lot of research done on people who are fertile using all the IVF medications, just because it's made for people who aren't able to get pregnant on their own. So to be okay with not having more kids, because going through the IVF process, it's just not known if your fertility will make it, just because all the fertility meds, aren't proven for someone who already is fertile. It's made for people who aren't able to have children. So some have said that it causes secondary infertility. So you may have been able to have babies before, but after going through the process, you might not be able to get pregnant again, in the future on your own. So, I mean, it was a risk to take, but again, we decided we didn't want any more children. So that wasn't a big deal for us. That is all the questions I had for this video. If you have any other questions, feel free to message me or comment on the video, and I can definitely reply. I'm pretty open when it comes to questions about my process. It's been really cool so far, and I feel so excited to be a little more than halfway done through the journey. I'm 21 weeks pregnant right now. And so we're getting super excited that I know the holidays are going to make it fly by. But all right, thank you guys. Bye.